The movie starts by introducing Elliot Deacon, a funeral director who is carefully preparing a dead body for a funeral service. He talks to the corpse in a very gentle tone before taking a quick photo using an old-fashioned camera. At the exact same time in a nearby apartment, a middle school teacher named Anna Taylor and her lawyer boyfriend, Paul, are spending time together in bed. However, Anna seems completely distant and unhappy. Feeling something is wrong, Paul lights up a cigarette, while Anna gets out of bed and steps into the shower. While she is under the water, Paul comes in and starts asking about their relationship, trying to figure out if she is genuinely happy with him. Anna claims she is fine, but her expressions clearly reveal deep stress and depression. Later that morning, Anna arrives at her school to start her workday. Inside the hallway, she spots a young student named Jack being picked on by older kids. She steps in immediately to protect the boy. Jack then points toward a tiny chick kept in their classroom cage and asks if it has died. Anna gently reassures the little boy, explaining that the bird is just frightened and resting. As the day goes on, Anna sits silently at her desk, lost in dark thoughts. She swallows a few pills and tries to focus on her work. By the time she finishes, the school is completely empty. As she walks down the hallway, the overhead lights begin shutting off one by one, plunging the building into darkness. Terrified, Anna starts sprinting toward the exit in pure panic. Just as she reaches the door screaming, little Jack appears and flips the light switch back on. Relieved, Anna walks outside with him. When she mentions that she is heading to her childhood piano teacher's funeral, Jack asks to join her, but Anna kindly tells him that funerals are not suitable for young children. Realizing she is out of her medication, Anna stops by a pharmacy, but instead ends up stepping into a hair salon right next door to dye her hair bright red. Shortly after, she arrives at the funeral home where Elliot is standing beside the body, talking quietly with his wife. Anna walks up to the open casket to pay her respects to her former piano teacher. While staring down at the face, Anna's eyes play a trick on her. She suddenly sees the dead woman take a faint breath. Shaken, Anna quickly leaves the building and gets into her car, completely unaware that Elliot is creeping on her from an upstairs window. That evening, Paul takes Anna out for an expensive dinner, secretly planning to pop the question and propose to her. They both promise not to start any arguments. When Anna notices the high-end wine on the table, she asks what they are celebrating. Paul begins explaining that his firm offered him a major promotion in Chicago. Misinterpreting his words, Anna immediately assumes he wants to break up with her. A heated argument erupts, ruining Paul's chance to pull out the ring. Frustrated and hurt, Paul yells that she is behaving just like her mentally unstable mother. Heartbroken, Anna storms out, gets in her car, cranks up heavy metal music, and speeds off into the pouring rain. Distressed and crying, she ignores the dangerous road conditions and tries to dial a number on her phone. Suddenly, she screams as headlights flash, forcing her to swerve the wheel violently. The scene cuts directly to the dark basement of Elliot's funeral parlor. Anna wakes up lying on a cold embalming table wearing her red dress, with a noticeable injury on her forehead. Elliot approaches her with scissors and begins cutting away her clothes. Shocked and terrified, Anna snaps fully conscious and tries to move. Elliot calmly tells her that she died in a severe car crash and is officially dead. Refusing to accept this, Anna demands to leave, but her body refuses to respond. Elliot chuckles, stating that every dead soul goes through denial when they first wake up on his autopsy table. He shuts off the basement lights and leaves her alone in the dark. Anna lies there in complete disbelief, desperately telling herself that this is just a terrible nightmare and trying to force herself awake. Meanwhile, Paul wakes up in his apartment the next morning and notices Anna never came home. Regretting their fight from the previous night, he calls her phone, leaving a voicemail explaining that he wants her to move to Chicago with him, not break up. However, Anna's phone is actually sitting in Elliot's possession. Elliot ignores the ringing phone, drops it into a small paper bag, and places it inside a hidden cabinet packed with dozens of identical bags. He then takes the photo he shot of Anna's piano teacher and pins it onto a massive wall filled with pictures of previous dead bodies, speaking to the photograph about Anna's stubbornness. Desperate for answers, Paul visits Anna's school, but she isn't there. He then drives to her mother's house. Cold and emotionless, Anna's mother bluntly informs Paul that Anna is dead, blaming him entirely for letting her drive away in the storm. Devastated and in tears, Paul is forced to leave. Down in the funeral home basement, Anna continues begging Elliot to release her while he stitches up the deep cut on her forehead. Ignoring her pleas, Elliot grabs a syringe filled with a strange yellowish liquid and injects it straight into her neck, causing her to lose consciousness. Shortly after, Anna's mother arrives to view the body. Standing over her daughter, the mother shows zero grief, instead complaining that Anna abandoned her. Her only request to Elliot is to dye Anna's hair back to its natural black color before the burial. Meanwhile, young Jack is at home cutting out a newspaper clipping about Anna's fatal crash. His mother sits on the couch staring blankly at the TV screen, completely unresponsive. Jack mentions that she needs to pick him up from school later, but she ignores him entirely. Back in the basement, Anna wakes up again and realizes she can move her hands and legs. She frantically checks her wrist for a pulse and slaps her own skin, trying to feel pain as proof that she is still alive. Getting off the table, she reaches for the basement telephone, but the line is busy because Elliot is upstairs confirming funeral arrangements. Desperate, she bangs on the heavy wooden doors, screaming for help. Outside, Paul arrives at the funeral home demanding to see Anna's body, but Elliot turns him away, stating that only immediate family members are permitted inside. Downstairs, Anna hears Paul shouting her name and screams back as hard as she can, but the soundproofing prevents him from hearing her. When Elliot returns to the basement, he finds Anna sitting on the floor. When she asks about Paul, Elliot manipulates her thoughts, asking if she ever truly loved him and insisting that she must accept her death and let go of the physical world. Unable to see Anna, Paul visits the local police station. Using his status as an attorney, he sneaks into the impound lot where wrecked vehicles are stored. Finding Anna's crushed car, he sits in the driver's seat and breaks down crying. After seeing a bloody dashboard figurine, he hallucinates Anna standing right outside the window. A friendly police officer finds him, comforts him, and lets him take the figurine home. Back in the basement, Anna finds a small knife and tries to pick the lock on the door. Suddenly, she notices another corpse lying nearby, an old woman named Ms. Whitehall. Seeing a real dead body up close frightens her deeply, making her realize how desperately she wants to stay alive. At that moment, Elliot enters the room, secretly lowering the thermostat temperature. Anna tries to attack him with the knife, but Elliot calmly stands his ground, daring her to stab him. When she hesitates, Elliot claims he possesses a special gift that allows him to speak with souls transitioning to the afterlife. He angrily berates her, asking why she fights so hard for a life she never truly enjoyed when she was healthy. Broken by his words, Anna sinks back onto the table. Shortly after, Anna experiences a strange vision where Ms. Whitehall gets up, dressed in black, telling her she isn't ready. A dark metallic door opens in the corner, and when Anna reaches inside, a pale hand drags her into a surreal world where a young version of herself appears, telling her she might be better off dead. Anna snaps out of the vision, realizes it was just a nightmare, and smashes the glassware off the shelves in pure rage. Upstairs, Elliot is arranging flowers for Ms. Whitehall's service when Jack walks up to him, asking when Anna's funeral will take place. Elliot is intrigued by the boy. Descending to the basement, Elliot finds the room trashed and confronts Anna, who is sitting on the floor in total shock, completely confused about whether she is alive or dead. Meanwhile, Paul has a nightmare where a naked, bleeding Anna appears in his bathroom and rips her heart out of her chest. He wakes up gasping, only to see the bloody car figurine on his nightstand twitch its head toward him. Back at the funeral home, Elliot brings in the black dress provided by Anna's mother. Desperate for a way out, Anna engages Elliot in conversation while secretly stealing his house keys. Once he drives away to run an errand, Anna uses the keys to unlock the basement door and runs upstairs. However, while driving, Elliot notices his keys are missing from his pocket and immediately turns back. Anna reaches the kitchen, but in her hurry, she leaves the keys sticking out of the door lock, trapping herself inside as all other exits are deadbolt. While Elliot searches the rooms, Anna finds a house phone and frantically calls Paul. Paul answers, but hearing static and faint breathing, he assumes it's a prank call and hangs up. Elliot corners Anna in the hallway, continuing his psychological mind games by saying You people always demand proof. He pushes her in front of a mirror, pointing out her pale skin and hollow eyes until she genuinely starts believing she is dead. Outside, little Jack spots Anna standing by the window. Elliot notices the boy watching and smiles, seeing another opportunity to manipulate the child. Elliot leads a defeated Anna back to the basement, washes the red dye out of her hair, and prepares her for the casket. Soon after, Elliot receives another call to retrieve a new body, a police officer's brother. While Elliot works on the new body, sewing its mouth shut, Anna asks if Paul cried for her. Elliot lies, claiming Paul showed no emotion at all. When Anna asks why people have to die, Elliot responds that death is the only thing that gives life value. He then injects her with the yellow paralyzing drug once again. Meanwhile, Paul visits Anna's school to pack up her personal items. Finding old photos of their happiest memories, he breaks down in grief and smashes items off her desk. Leaving the building, he runs into Jack. The little boy casually mentions seeing Anna at the funeral home in a red dress. Paul insists Anna didn't own a red dress, but Jack stands firm. When Jack innocently asks if Paul stopped loving her, Paul loses his temper and slaps the boy across the face. Back at the funeral parlor, a police officer arrives to view his deceased brother. Elliot gets nervous, thinking the police are investigating him, but realizes it's just a family visit. Downstairs, as the officer stands near his brother's body, he notices Anna lying motionless nearby. Her head twitches slightly. The officer steps closer and touches her face. Elliot walks in, feeling uneasy about what he saw. After the officer leaves, an annoyed Elliot angrily applies bright makeup to the brother's corpse, treating it like a prop. Later, Jack visits the funeral home on his own. Elliot finds the boy near the caskets and manipulates him, claiming that Jack possesses a rare gift to see and hear the dead, just like him. Elliot compares it to Lazarus rising from the dead and offers to mentor the boy. Driving through town, Paul suddenly spots a red dress hanging in a shop window, instantly remembering that Anna did own one. Realizing Jack was telling the truth, Paul rushes to the funeral home and confronts Elliot outside. Elliot calmly dismisses Paul, claiming the young boy has a wild imagination and spends too much time around caskets. Enraged, Paul pushes past him, running through the house yelling Anna's name. Downstairs, Anna wakes up, but completely brainwashed by Elliot's words. She lies completely still and stays silent. Paul is forced to leave empty-handed and goes to the police, but the officers refuse to help, believing he is just driven mad by grief. In the basement, Elliot begins the final preparations on Anna. Feeling completely resigned, Anna opens up about her regrets, admitting she lived a rigid, meaningless routine and was always afraid to love because of her childhood trauma. Elliot opens the basement door, sarcastically telling her she is free to leave and live again. But deeply traumatized and believing she is dead, Anna stares at the dark doorway and refuses to step outside. Elliot laughs, stating that people aren't truly afraid of death, but of actually living. Later, Elliot takes Jack to the cemetery to dig Anna's grave. He shares his twisted life philosophy with the boy, explaining that his true purpose is to eliminate people who are wandering around aimlessly, making the world miserable while not truly living. The next morning, Anna is placed inside her casket. Before the final injection, she asks to look in a mirror one last time. Elliot hands her a small pocket mirror. As she looks into it, her warm breath condenses onto the glass surface, forming visible moisture. In that exact moment, Anna realizes the absolute truth. She was never dead. Elliot has been lying and drugging her the entire time. Before she can scream, Elliot quickly drives a needle into her neck, putting her back to sleep. He takes a final photo of her motionless body. At the funeral, loved ones mourn over the open casket. Paul places an engagement ring on her finger, crying over how cold her skin feels. Elliot quickly seals the casket lid shut to avoid any slip-ups and lowers her into the ground. Back at his house, Elliot pins Anna's photo onto his wall alongside hundreds of previous victims he gaslit and buried alive. Underneath the earth, the paralyzing drug wears off, and Anna wakes up inside the pitch-black coffin. Realizing she has been buried alive, she screams in horror and claws frantically at the wooden lid, but her cries are trapped beneath feet of dirt. At the post-funeral reception, A heavily drunk Paul confronts Elliot once again. Elliot taunts him, whispering that if Paul is so certain Anna is alive, he should go to the graveyard and dig her up before she runs out of air. Driven by desperation, Paul jumps into his car and speeds dangerously toward the cemetery in the rain. At the same time, Jack is seen putting a live chick into a small box and burying it in the dirt, repeating Elliot's twisted words that it's better this way. On the road, Elliot sits calmly in his parked car with Jack, listening to classical music as an ambulance speeds past them with sirens blaring. Paul arrives at the cemetery, frantically digging through the dirt with his bare hands until he smashes open the coffin lid. He pulls Anna out, kissing her as she opens her eyes. But suddenly, the scene shifts. Paul realizes he is experiencing a fading hallucination. Paul opens his real eyes to find himself lying on Elliot's embalming table in the basement, with Elliot cutting away his bloody shirt. Elliot calmly explains that Paul never made it to the cemetery because he crashed his car on the way there. As Paul struggles and screams, young Jack stands quietly in the corner, watching his new mentor. Elliot picks up a sharp metallic embalming trocar and plunges it deep into Paul's chest, sealing his fate just like Anna's.